We're going to play, says New York Jets head coach Aaron Glenn, indicating that the starters will get some burn in the Jets preseason opener against the Green Bay Packers on Saturday night. I agree with this. I think it is consistent with the theme of the New York Jets training camp, leading towards being prepared to start the season and then dealing with the trade-off of injury risk. There's a balance between them. Previous coaches that the Jets have had leaned way more towards precaution. Aaron Glenn leading a little bit towards, hey, man, we're going to be ready to go. If you're going to get dinged and nicked during a tackling drill, an Oklahoma drill in August, are you going to be available in January? You know what I mean? It's a war of attrition, so they got to be ready to go. Now, in terms of what to look for in this game, I got 5 things, and you don't want to make too much of it. You're going to see Justin Fields maybe throw 4 passes. With the first team offense, I want to see the ball getting out quick. That's the main thing I want to see, because I'll frame it like this. Offenses where Justin Fields has been the quarterback have been sacked a lot. However we want to divvy up the blame pie, the Jets offense needs to be sacked less this year. So whether that's the offensive line, blocking should be the first teamers out there, maybe besides Simpson. Wide receivers getting open, Tanner Engstrom scheming up stuff, Justin Fields getting the ball out quicker. We don't want to see any plays where the ball is held longer than 3 seconds. Ideally, that's the main thing for the first team offense. Now, so in that schematically, it's going to be vanilla. The defense will be vanilla. This is the main thing. Has that been a priority in camp, and is that priority immediately translatable to the first sort of live action play? Now, number 2, I want to see the pecking order in the back end of a lot of these rooms. It should be interesting. I mean, tight end, Mason Taylor seems to be the straightaway tight end 1. Behind that, it's a little dicey. You know, it's back-to-back days where Jeremy Ruckert has had a pass go off of his hands and into the hands of Brandon Stevens. I thought it was a retweet by accident by the reporters, but no, almost identical play. Ruckert drop leads to a pick. Second practice in a row. How does the pecking order go from Beck to Ruckert to Stone, Smart to Neil Johnson? And you can kind of work backwards from who's playing at the end of the game, right? And that kind of gives you an idea of the depth chart. You know, at tight end, that's a spot to me where I'm looking at cut down day. I think maybe you're typically thinking like maybe 1 or 2 guys are going to be on the 53 that aren't on the roster now. I would say defensive line and tight end would be maybe one of those spots. You know, Stone Smart seems to have some receiving chops, but he's essentially a big wide receiver. So are you going to run 12 personnel? That's your physical package with a 21-year-old rookie tight end and a glorified slot receiver at tight end, when tight end blocking or lack thereof was one of the main reasons why this offense struggled last year. I don't know about that. So maybe it's Beck. I like Beck, to be honest. I think he's solid. I think he's okay. There's some signings I like this offseason, like Beck, like Byron Cowher. It doesn't mean they're amazing. It may mean they're slotted one spot higher than you like, but I still think it's good value. So if right now on my money, it would be, I hope it's Beck, because Ruckert, to me, there's only so many times we can beat that horse. With Ruckert, it kind of is what it is. He's like a fringe practice squad kind of player, in my opinion. And I think that this tight end room is scarier to me than defensive line. I can live with Michael Clemens being the edge straight if I have to. Ruckert being tight end too, I don't know, man. That's a spot where they might have to look at some veterans. So I'm curious there. Back into the receiver room between Pritchard, Gibson, Corley, Brandon Smith, Arian Smith. How is that all shaking out behind the veterans? You got Garrett, and then you have that tier of veterans with Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, Tyler Johnson. But then who are the next men up there? Because there seems to be about 5 guys vying for maybe 2 spots. Then I am just interested to see, they're playing the first team offensive line. Like, who is the guard if Simpson can't play? Who's that next interior offensive lineman up? Are they going to put Tippmann at guard and put Myers at center? Because they've done that in practice when Simpson's been out. Is that their plan? Is that their first plan if there's an injury at guard? Or is it going to be Xavier Newman or Cole Leveo? So that'll be interesting, because you'll see, like, what is their plan? If a guard is hurt, what will they do? That could give us some insight there. Entire defensive line, man. Entire defensive line. Because the same thing with the back end receiver room. Edge, I have, like, how do they stack up It seems to be like they like Clemens as that third edge. Obviously, Jermaine is not going to play. So you're probably going to see Clemens and Will McDonald out there in base defense. And then after that, what's the pecking order between Watts and Rashad Weaver and McGregor and Tyler Barron? It could go in any order. So that'd be interesting to see in the defensive line. So that's a whole nother thing. The pecking order in all those rooms. That's a long-winded number two. But number three, like just some specific players getting into Arian Smith, man. Arian Smith, I really want to see if that speed at least translates. Can he get some separation? Because this weaponry could really use some immediate impact from him. I'm not expecting him to be the wide receiver 2 right away as a 110th overall pick, but is he out there at least in the second quarter? Or is he out there when Jamal Pritchard in Corley season? Is he that next guy in after maybe the veterans that they're playing? And does his speed translate? Does he still look like one of the fastest dudes on the field at the NFL level? Because we're going to need some stuff out of Arian Smith sooner rather than later. Number 4, Armand Membu. You want Armand Membu to be kicking the ass of the second and third stringers that he's going to be playing. He should get a lot of work. He might stay in the game a little bit longer than guys like AVT. Or if John Simpson is able to play this offseason, like Armand Membu might get a little bit more work. Olu Vashnu got more work than the veteran offensive lineman last offseason. So when he's going against starters, I want him to look like he's holding his own. And then when he's playing second and third stringers or guys competing for roster spots, I want him to be physically dominating them and kicking their ass with Armand Membu. Number 5, the young, we talked about the defensive line, but these defensive backs, like specifically AC Thomas, Quantas Stiggers, and JBC. Really, eyes on JBC because JBC was phenomenal last preseason. And it seems like Stiggers is having a really strong camp. AZ Thomas is obviously a roster lock. So can JBC be good enough to where the Jets say, you know what, we have to actually keep like a 7th corner or an extra defensive back because he's too good and he's too young to let go. So those are my 5. I mean, obviously, Garrett and Sauce and all that, but more about that offense getting the ball out and then some of those young guys in a lot of these battles at room is where I think it could go a lot of different ways. And we'll get some insight on Saturday and we'll talk about soon.